So today, we're diving into the world of a YouTube channel called Truth in Bible Prophecy. They've gained a pretty big following by connecting what's happening in the news today to, you guessed it, ancient biblical texts. We're going to break down their very specific take on what's unfolding on the world stage.
And really, all of their content seems to circle around one huge and, let's face it, pretty provocative question. Is there a secret plan by world leaders to build a single global religion and, with it, a single world government?
Well, according to this channel, the answer isn't just maybe, it's a resounding yes. And for them, this isn't some modern conspiracy theory. They argue it was all foretold thousands of years ago in the Bible, and that we're seeing it happen right before our very eyes. Okay, so let's start with the absolute heart of their argument, the main prophetic claim. Here's the core of it. The channel argues that when Pope Francis talks about unity between different faiths, it's not just a nice message about world peace. No, they see it as laying the groundwork for a one-world religion. And they point to a specific chapter in the Bible, Revelation 13, saying this is a direct fulfillment of a prophecy about the whole world uniting to follow a figure they label the Antichrist.
So, if this is a massive end times drama unfolding, who are the main characters in the story, at least according to the channel?
They really zero in on two major figures. First up, you have Pope Francis. They identify him with titles like the Antichrist or the Sea Beast from the book of Revelation. He's seen as the spiritual leader of this whole system they call Babylon. And then you've got King Charles III. They call him a king of the earth or even the climate king. In their view, he's the political force who's going to use his influence to enforce this new global agenda. Okay, so we've got the alleged players, but what's the game plan? What exactly is this one world agenda that they're supposedly pushing? The channel claims it's basically a two-part strategy. The first prong is all about religious unity, or ecumenism. They'll often highlight statements from Pope Francis suggesting that different religions are all just different paths to the same God. The second prong is about environmental unity. The argument here is that the climate change crisis is being used as the perfect excuse to bring in more global control. And according to the source, this isn't just happening randomly. They see it as a clear three-step plan. Step 1, unify all the faiths under one umbrella. Step 2, use the climate crisis to justify sweeping global action. And the final step, Step 3, enforce a mandatory universal day of rest, what they call a climate Sunday, which they believe will actually be a form of worship for this new global system. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Let's look at how the channel decodes all these events using some very specific, symbolic language from their interpretation of Bible prophecy. All right, first up is the term, the sea beast. When you hear them use this phrase, they're talking about one thing, the papacy. They see it as representing the Roman Catholic Church, not just as a religion, but as a historical, political power that they believe is now making a huge comeback on the world stage. And if there's a sea beast, there's got to be a land beast, right? Well, in this interpretation, the land beast is none other than the United States of America. The channel predicts that America will use its massive global influence to enforce the sea beast's agenda, specifically a future law mandating Sunday worship. And this all leads to what they see as the central conflict of the whole story. It's not a war fought with guns and bombs. It's a war over worship. On one side, you have what they call the mark of the beast, which they identify as Sunday worship, a tradition they say is man-made and shows allegiance to Rome. On the other side, you have the seal of God, which to them is observing the Sabbath on Saturday, a biblical commandment showing allegiance directly to God. Now, to back all this up, the source points way back in history. They talk about the Roman Emperor Constantine back in the 4th century. He initially seemed to honor both Saturday and Sunday, but then he passed a law that pushed Sunday worship to the forefront. They predict a future pope will pull the same move, making a show of honoring the Saturday Sabbath as a kind of deceptive Trojan horse before a global Sunday law is ultimately enforced. As they like to say, what has been will be again. So, what's the bottom line? Where does all of this lead? Well, it all builds up to the channel's final and very urgent warning to its viewers. And the warning is pretty stark. The channel says this global system, which they call Babylon, is being built right now, as we speak. They predict that anyone who doesn't go along with it, especially those who keep the Saturday Sabbath, will eventually face persecution. They even claim that world disasters will be blamed on this group of people. So the message to their audience is clear.
A choice is coming, and you have to decide whether to reject the system or go along with it.
So, in the end, the narrative that Truth and Bible Prophecy presents is a powerful one of deception, global control, and a final, ultimate test of loyalty. It leaves its viewers wrestling with a really challenging question. As the world pushes harder and harder for unity, what is the ultimate price of what they see as biblical truth?